Brief History of the Keller Manufacturing Company in Harrison County, Indiana. Presented by Karen Schwartz, President, Historical Society of Harrison County, Indiana, Quarterly Event, July 2022. Introduction. Many small towns in Indiana and across the U.S. have had the factory or business that served as a major economic contributor, employing generations of local workers for many years, then abruptly closed down, leaving a huge gap in the local economy. For Corydon, Indiana, it was the Keller Manufacturing Company. Through recessions, depressions, natural disasters, world wars, and other economic ups and downs, Harrison County families worked at the ever-evolving Keller Manufacturing Company, an enterprise that began as a general store, then became a factory producing wagons, furniture, and other entrepreneurial items. Keller's continued to roll with the punches until it closed its Harrison County operations in 2004. This presentation is in no way intended as a comprehensive history, but as a brief chronological introduction to provide an opportunity to delve into the fascinating, rich history of the Keller Store. W.H. Keller Company, Keller Manufacturing Company, Keller Department Store, Incorporated, and Keller Furniture Company, and their significance to life in Harrison County, Indiana. Keller Manufacturing Company Group Photos. 4 Keller businesses in chronological order. Number 1, peddler, huckster. Number 2, store. Number 3, wagons. Number 4, furniture. By the way, the English translation of the German word Keller, seller. Overviews of Keller business sites in Corydon. The W.H. Keller Building, the northwest corner of Capitol and Beaver in downtown Corydon. Side view along Beaver Street. The alley behind the W.H. Keller store where produce was unloaded. The location of W.H. Keller Building, the northwest corner of Capitol and West Beaver. Keller Manufacturing Company site, Wagon plant, beside North Water Street and Indian Creek. Corydon aerial view, Keller's in red circle. Corydon 1990s aerial, south looking north. An aerial view of Keller Manufacturing Company furniture, Corydon, Indiana. Drone pictures of former Keller Manufacturing Company site in Corydon, Indiana. Keller site looking east across Indian Creek. Railroad bridge looking east from Indian Creek Trail. Looking north, 2022. Looking south, 2022. Progression of Keller leadership, 4 generations. First generation, John Leonard Keller. Second generation, W.H. Keller, son of John Leonard Keller. L.C. Keller, son of John Leonard Keller. E.G. Keller, son of John Leonard Keller. Third generation, Charles A. Keller, son of W.H. Keller, grandson of John Leonard Keller. Fourth generation, William Henry W.H. Bill Keller, son of C.A. Keller, great-grandson of John Leonard Keller. Short list of some of the leading managerial movers and shakers in Keller businesses with the years they held the top position in one of the Keller businesses. Titles, job descriptions changed through the years, and almost all of the directors and officers through the years had close ties to the Keller family. It was very much a family-run business, especially in the early years. John Leonard Keller, 1850 to 1879, founder of Keller Store. William Henry W.H. Keller, 1879 to 1923. Johann Leonard's oldest surviving son, founder of W.H. Keller Company and president, Keller Manufacturing Company. Leonard Christian Keller, 1924 to 1927. Johann Leonard's second son, founder of Keller Department Store, Incorporated. Edward George Keller, 1923 to 1930. W.H.'s brother and Johann L.'s youngest son, president, Keller Manufacturing Company. Charles A. Keller, 1930 to 1955. W.H.'s son, president, Keller Furniture and Keller Manufacturing Company. William Henry W.H. Bill Henry Keller, 1955 to 1991. Charles A.'s son, president and general manager, Keller Manufacturing Company. In the final years, leadership from outside the family served until the end of the era of Keller business in Harrison County, Indiana, and beyond. The Keller story. Beginning years of Keller businesses. Johann Leonard Keller came from Germany. The story of the Keller Manufacturing Company in Harrison County begins with Johann Leonard Keller, a German immigrant from Darmstadt, a community in the Electorate of Hesse, one of many states of the Germanic Confederation. Due to internal strife in Germany, many immigrants, including Johann Leonard Keller and other family members, came to America, the land of opportunity. Local legend has it that Keller arrived in New York in October 1846 with only $1.10 in his pocket. The $1 turned out to be counterfeit, but Keller was armed with 10 cents and a firm resolution to make something of himself. Johann Leonard Keller comes to Harrison County. Speaking only German, Johann Leonard resolved to travel west to Harrison County, Indiana, where his sister Elizabeth had settled. He arrived in Harrison County, Indiana in March of 1847. En route to his sister's house, he stopped at a wayside inn between New Albany and Corydon, where he became acquainted with a young working girl named Christiana Rudy, who had come to Harrison County a few months earlier. He never forgot her. Johann Leonard Keller was a clockmaker by trade. He had been apprenticed as a clockmaker, but he found limited opportunities in the relatively prosperous rural areas of Harrison County settled by German families. He abandoned clockmaking to become a rural huckster, selling housewares, beginning as a country pack peddler in Harrison County, Indiana. In addition to changing his occupation, he also changed his marital status. Johann L. Keller married Christiana Rudy in March 1850. He first settled in Spencer Township, where William Henry Harrison had previously owned property. Relocation to Flocktown. Always in search of new opportunities, Johann Leonard and Christiana Keller moved to Flocktown near Crandall in Jackson Township, where he continued to serve his neighbors as a huckster. Johann Leonard Keller, firstborn son of Johann Leonard and Christiana Keller, died at 18 months on September 7, 1852. He is buried in the Flock Family Cemetery. Relocation to Scott Township. Next, the Kellers moved to Scott Township near Luther's Chapel and opened a store at Kellertown, a modest rural settlement about 6 miles west of Corydon in then Scott Township. In addition to selling groceries and housewares, Keller also did custom butchering for his neighbors. The children of Johann Leonard and Christiana Rudy Keller with years of birth, death, and spouse. Number 1, Johann Leonard Keller Jr., 1851 to 1852. Number 2, Elizabeth C. Keller, Mrs. M.C. Frank, 1853 to 1920. Number 3, Isabel Keller, Mrs. S. Fremer, 1856 to 1918. Number 4, Caroline Lena Rosanna Keller, Mrs. R. Thornberry, 1858 to 1909. Number 5, William H. Keller. Wives, Cora and Jessie Allen, sisters, 1860 to 1923. Number 6, Mary Ellen Keller. Mrs. A.D. Reed, 1862 to 1932. Number 7, Leonard Christian Keller, 1865 to 1927. Wife, Stella Nye. Number 8, Lillian C. Keller. Mrs. Lou O'Bannon, 1867 to 1939. Twin sister, number 9, Rosamond Keller, 1867 to 1946. Twin sister of Lillian. Number 10, Edward George, 1871 to 1930. Wife, Leona Funk. The Keller family, Christiana Keller and her 9 children. The tombstone markers of the children of Johann Leonard and Christiana Rudy Keller. Thomas Jordan, T.J. Hudson, 1874 to 1966, was also active in the management history of Kellers and was the last of the 4 original partners to pass away in 1966. T.J. married Nell Allen, a sister of both of William H. Keller's 2 wives, Cora and Jessie Allen, making him W.H.'s brother-in-law. As the Civil War ended, Johann Leonard Keller recognized that sales prospects would improve if he moved his store to the town of Corydon. Advantages of moving his mercantile business to Corydon? Corydon had a rich history. First territorial capital, first state capital, William Henry Harrison legacy, the Battle of Corydon. Number 2, the town was awakening economically. Number 3, a log plank road between New Albany and Corydon was built in 1853. Number 4, talk of a railroad. Number 5, banks organized. Number 6, rural trade naturally gravitated to Corydon, centrally located in the center of Harrison County. Number 7, Harrison County Courthouse was located in Corydon, the county seat of Harrison County. Number 8, other businesses, 2 mills, general and specialty stores, hardware stores, boot and harness shops, drugstore, and ice cream candy stand. Johann Leonard Keller decided to move his business to Corydon, and he prospered. He opened his Keller Store in Corydon in 1866. The Keller patriarch, Johann Leonard Keller, died unexpectedly in March 1879. Images of Johann Leonard Keller's tombstones located in historic Cedar Hill Cemetery in Corydon, Indiana. Cedar Hill Cemetery entrance. The Keller Store passes to the next generation. William Henry Keller, 19. Johann Leonard and Christiana Keller's oldest surviving son took over running Keller Store after his father died in 1879, leaving behind him a widow and the aforementioned 9 children. William Henry Keller changed the name of the store to W.H. Keller Company and later expanded the business to manufacture spokes and hubs for wagons. Grocery General Store. Keller sold dry goods and grocery items and used this slogan: Keller's, since 1850, the quality store that service built, circa 1910. The W.H. Keller Building. Keller's magnificent store. Mesker Iron Works on W.H. Keller Building. Corydon Democrat clippings, Remember When, show the W.H. Keller store circa 1909 and the interior of the store pre-1897. W.H. Keller Company, the store, was a major economic institution in Corydon. It's also been placed on the National Register of Historic Places. Number 1, Keller's continued their grocery interest. Number 2, they liquidated stock in a number of competing mercantile stores. Edward, the younger brother, helped with closing out those stores. Number 3, brother Leonard C. Keller returned from Nebraska in 1890, operated a mercantile store in Elizabeth in southern Harrison County, and then moved to Corydon, where he began working for his brother, William H. Keller. As the W. H. Keller store prospered, William H. Keller branched out into other enterprises. He purchased a farm south of Corydon. He entered into a partnership with William H. Wiseman to open a short-lived creamery. The W. H. Keller Company was hit hard by the panic of 1893, but bounced back. William H. Keller was forced into bankruptcy. He settled all bills for 50 cents on every dollar owed. J. M. Norton and Company, a mercantile supply firm in Louisville, held the bulk of the Keller business debts. W. H. Keller impressed Norton so much that they helped him reestablish and even expand his business. In 1894, the frame building was replaced with a 29-foot by 87-foot brick building. This building was enlarged by nearly 100% in 1899. In 1894, W. H. Keller expanded its merchandise offerings to include sales of boots and shoes. Number 1, Edward G. Keller was in charge of the footwear department. Number 2, T.J. Hudson was hired as clerk in the footwear department. William H. Keller remained in charge but took on business partners, equal shares, and departmentalized in 1895. Partners: number 1, Edward G. Keller, brother. Number 2, Leonard C. Keller, brother. Number 3, Thomas J. Hudson, brother-in-law. His wife was a sister to W. H., first and second wife. Number 4, William H. Keller, brother. Departments with personnel in charge: dry goods, carpets, and cloaks, William H. and Leonard C. Keller. Clothing and furnishing goods, E.G. Keller. Boots, shoes, and hat department, T.J. Hudson. We four and no more. Keller Brothers, W.H., L.C., E.G., and T.J. Hudson. W.H. Keller's store faced competition in Corydon and beyond. In 1894, C.P. Trotter opened a department store known as The Hub. In 1897, M. Griffin and Company. This was an outgrowth of the Griffin and McGrain store, which was founded in 1866. Increasing use of catalogs from mail order houses such as Sears Roebuck and Company and Montgomery Ward and Company. The railroad made Louisville area easily accessible to local shoppers. The W.H. Keller store used extensive advertising to combat the competition. They provided information about available merchandise. Keller placed full-page ads in local papers. Sometimes the whole front page was an ad for Keller. Punch card merchandise reward system. About 1900, Keller instituted a punch card system. Cards were punched by clerks when merchandise was purchased. When $10 had been punched out, the customer received a small hand-cranked phonograph for free by turning in the punch card. This highly successful program, hundreds were given out, continued until April 1912. Huckster wagons traveled rural routes. Keller's delivered groceries daily in Corydon, and a wagon took purchased farm produce to Louisville area. 8 wagons were engaged in serving rural areas. There were routes in Harrison, Crawford, Washington, and Orange counties. A barter system allowed rural folks to trade country produce for merchandise. Jake Rosenbarger with his team and wagon on his W.H. Keller peddling route. The W.H. Keller store had an annual fall promotion. Customers were invited to come in to see the new line of fall merchandise. Shoppers were treated to free food samples, including vegetable soup, crackers, cheese, pickles, and hot dogs. Huge crowds attended these events. The W.H. Keller Store provided accommodations and opportunities which were important to the people of Harrison County. In 1897, 22 people were on the payroll, as well as several part-time helpers. Many of these spoke German fluently, so customers, many of whom were first-generation immigrants, felt at home trading at W.H. Keller. Sprachen Sie Deutsch? Store hours were from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Open credit system on account for merchandise purchased. Competitive wages, steady work, low turnover. William H. Keller pictured with his wives. Cora Allen Keller, 1867 to 1910, first wife. Her sister Jessie Allen Keller, 1880 to 1927, second wife. W.H. Keller, as described in the Corydon Democrat. William H. Keller has the reputation of being one of the best businessmen Corydon has ever known. He is possessed of great energy, which he seeks constantly to direct where it will be of most service. Keen, sagacious, and venturesome to a degree that has fairly startled the people of this vicinity, he has succeeded in his enterprises beyond the expectations of the most sanguine. Other enterprises of Corydon's driving spirit. W.H. Keller, between 1895 and 1906. Most of the endeavors were designed to use up excess scrap wood. Number 1, electric light plant, 1895. Number 2, wagon spokes factory, 1896. Number 3, water system powered by steam engine, 1897. Number 4, hub mill operation added to wagon spoke factory, 1898. And number 5, an ice plant purchased, 1898. Corydon is electrified. Electric lights. A grand success, all praise to W.H. Keller. Be it remembered that on Friday, January 25th, 1895, Miss Nellie Keller, the little daughter of Mr. W.H. Keller, pulled the button, and for the first time in history of the ancient capital, Corydon was lighted by electricity. The lights were brilliant and everything worked to perfection. The business houses will be lighted this week. Who would throw a stone in the way of making the town a live, prosperous city? It costs 35 cents per month per light. The railroad comes to Harrison County. The railroad finally came to Corydon in 1883, providing an opportunity for farmers and merchants to ship products to outside markets and suppliers. The Louisville, New Albany, and Corydon Railroad, 7.7 miles long, was organized on April 30th, 1881. It connected with the main line of the Airline Railroad at Corydon Junction, which reached New Albany by use of trunk line tracks. The destiny of Keller's and the LNAC were closely tied, since the railroad provided significant benefit to Keller's and vice versa, and their histories and destinies were intertwined. Factors which contributed to the founding of the Keller Manufacturing Company to make wagons. Number 1, an entrepreneurial spirit. Number 2, a source of capital from the successful W.H. Keller Company. Number 3, a growing labor supply. Number 4, access to a single type of needed raw material, hardwood lumber. Number 5, Keller's already had woodworking equipment. Based on these factors, W.H. Keller decided to establish a manufacturing plant to build complete farm wagons, instead of just making wagon parts like hubs and spokes. From the Corydon Republican, Thursday, May 1900. For some time past, the subject of erecting a wagon works plant at this place has been discussed. The project now seems to be a go. The chief obstacle in the way seemed to be the procurement of a suitable site for the plant. This, we are informed, has been secured. The citizens raised a bonus of $2,000 for the site, and the ground north of the spoke factory has been purchased. Mr. W. H. Keller, the leading local spirit in the enterprise, has, we are told, gone to make arrangements for machinery. The plant will start on a small scale, employing about 100 hands, and will increase its capacity as business requires. Era of Keller wagon making begins. 1899, W. H. Keller moved toward making his dream of establishing a manufacturing plant to build farm wagons a reality. Nationally, the wagon-making industry reached its peak in 1900 as far as actual number of wagon producers. 1890, there were 4,572 wagon makers. 1900, 7,632 wagon makers. By 1910, this dropped to 2,544 wagon makers. Former site of Keller Manufacturing Company is located north of the Constitution Elm. Site is bordered by North Water Street along Indian Creek. More facilities were needed to produce wagons. All of these buildings were ready for use by 1900. Number 1, a power plant. Number 2, a building to house gear and wheel department. Number 3, a forge. Number 4, a paint shop with storage room. Number 5, a sawmill. And number 6, a dry kiln. Machinery was installed to give the firm an output capacity of 5,000 wagons per year. Early wagon making days for the Keller Manufacturing Company. Number 1, since none of the managers knew about the ins and outs of wagon building, H.B. Chilcote was hired as an experienced manager, formerly of the Milburn Wagon Company of Toledo, Ohio. Number 2, wages were set at 10 cents per hour for labor and 11 cents per hour for the foreman. Number 3, the factory operated 6 days a week for 10 hours a day. Number 4, the first 2 years were not considered a success. Number 5, they fired Chilcote and made Edward, youngest Keller brother, manager. Number 6, Edward reorganized the factory and put it on a paying basis. Number 7, always short of working capital, Keller employees received a passbook to spend at W. H. Keller, the company store. Passbooks were discontinued in 1917. Number 8, managers were paid by the W. H. Keller Company until 1910. Monthly salary, W. H. $175. E. G. Keller, $125. L. C. Keller, $75. And T. J. Hudson, $75. January 10th, 1906, Articles of Incorporation for Keller Manufacturing Company, the wagon factory, drawn up. 5 directors, William H., Leonard C., and Edward G. Keller, T. J. Hudson, James H. Black. In 1908, Black resigned and he was replaced by William J. Bullitt. Number 2, the capital stock of $100,000 was authorized and made up of 1,000 shares of stock at a par value of $100 per share. Number 3, January 13, 1906, officers elected. W. H., President. T. J. Hudson, Vice President. Leonard C., Treasurer. Edward G., Secretary and General Manager. James H. Black, Director. Stock distribution. Number of shares. W. H., L. C., E. G. Keller, and T. J. Hudson, 140 shares each. J. H. Black, 5. William Saltz, 5. O. Conrad, 5. T. Miller, 3. Ed Frakes, 3. Kellers proclaimed that they made the best wagons on earth for the money, utilizing quality wood and metal. Number 1, the number 1 product was the Corydon wagon, better wood. Number 2, also offered the Keller wagon, slightly less expensive. Number 3, assortment of variations, options, and combinations. Types of wood used for wagon parts: hubs, white oak or hickory. Reachers, bolsters, sandboards, hounds, etc., white oak. Axles, double, single trees, hickory. Skeins, best and heaviest metal available. The Corydon wagon, the very best, the kind that lasts. Keller wagon, the best cheap wagon in the market. Keller's #1 farm truck. Contract with International Harvester. In 1909, Keller entered into an agreement which continued until 1943 with International Harvester and discontinued its own old wagon lines. The company began making Buckeye, Keystone, Monarch, Sterling, and Solid Comfort, with the Weber being the top-of-the-line model, known as the aristocrat of wagons, which were built in types to suit all sections of the country. This eliminated the need for a sales department. Keller could concentrate on building quality wagons and let International Harvester take care of selling them using Harvester's national sales network. Invention of internal combustion engines and increasing mechanization brought big changes. Farm wagons fell out of fashion. Americans were no longer interested in purchasing a farm wagon. They recognized that automobiles, trucks, and tractors were the wave of the future. Domestic wagon sales dropped after World War I, but times improved from 1925 to 1928 due to increased wagon sales abroad, where automation was moving at a slower pace. When the bank in Corydon was closed by the bank examiner in 1921, Keller's was technically insolvent. A representative of the Sun Varnish Company gave Keller's a check for $10,000 to provide capital to keep Keller's operating. After the bank failure, W.H. Keller decided that he wanted to leave Keller Manufacturing Company after 27 years and become sole owner of the W.H. Keller Company, the store. W.H. Keller transferred 103 shares of stock in the Keller Manufacturing Company to his brothers, Leonard and Edward, and his brother-in-law, T.J. Hudson, in exchange for their stock in the W.H. Keller Company. W.H. Keller died on October 31st, 1923, in Florida. First camper truck. Charles A. Keller, son of W.H. Keller, designed camper trucks circa 1922. The company experimented with making trucks and bus bodies designed for mounting on Model T Ford chassis. Unfortunately, this branch of the business never really took off since other companies like Studebaker already had a head start, and soon all bodies were made of steel, not wood. Keller handicap truck bodies built in 1922 by Keller Manufacturing Company. New management officers for Keller Manufacturing Company in 1924. President E.G. Edward Keller. Vice President T.J. Hudson. Secretary C.A. Keller, son of W.H. Keller, who had passed away. Treasurer L.C. Keller. Then Leonard transferred 65 shares of his stock in Keller Manufacturing Company for the entire stock of W.H. Keller Company. Leonard continued as treasurer of Keller Manufacturing Company till his death in 1927. In June 1925, T.J. Hudson also decided to leave Keller Manufacturing Company to pursue business interests on his own. So, Edward Keller was the only one remaining from the original, we four and no more, still actively engaged in Keller Manufacturing Company. Leonard Keller was now sole owner of the W.H. Keller Company, the store. Leonard changed the name to Keller's Department Store Incorporated. Two real-world problems confronted the firm. Number one, there was a change in the buying philosophy of the people of Harrison County, who began making more frequent purchases of reduced quality, low-priced goods. Keller's, who had always carried national brands, refused to stock second-grade merchandise. Number two, as always, there was a shortage of working capital. Leonard, who died in 1927, specified that none of his estate funds should be put back into the store. Prophetically, he may have recognized the inevitable fate of a large store in a small town. This deprived Keller's department store of its most valuable asset for attaining funds to keep operating. Number 3, desperate rescue attempts to save the store, such as slashing payroll, were unsuccessful. At a specially called meeting of the board of directors in March 1932, it was unanimously agreed to close the doors of the Keller's Department Store, Incorporated. An epoch in the mercantile development of Corydon came to an end. Meanwhile, record wagon sales in 1929, then the Depression hits. Business continued to improve, and in 1929, Keller had the greatest sales and profit the company, Keller Manufacturing, had known to that time. The company sold 12,615 wagons and trucks for a total of $622,245 that year. But then the Depression hits. October 29th, 1929, Black Tuesday, the stock market crash. The Great Depression hit the company hard, and by 1932, Keller Manufacturing Company was nearly broke, but persevered. International Harvester rescued the company with two $15,000 loans that provided the means necessary to stave off applying for bankruptcy. Wagon sales picked up again in the mid-1930s, with Keller producing all of the farm wagons sold by International Harvester and 15% of all wagons manufactured in the United States. The international market temporarily picked up the slack, but then Canada placed a tariff on all farm implements, including wagons. Several hundred wagons were shipped to Australia, and 2 wagons were even shipped to the King of Siam. Edward George Keller's death. E.G. Keller, the final surviving brother, died suddenly from a heart attack in a Louisville hospital while on a business trip to Louisville on January 20th, 1930. On February 3, 1930, Keller Manufacturing Company held a directors' meeting and elected the following officers: President and General Manager C.A. Keller, Vice President T.J. Hudson, Secretary Leona F. Keller, E.G.'s widow, Treasurer Joseph L. Keller, another son of W.H. Keller, Director Rosamond Keller. Charles A. Keller, son of W.H. Keller, born 1890, died 1972. C.A. Keller married Gladys Fern Bean Keller, 1892 to 1984. Charles A. Keller was president of the Keller Manufacturing Company from 1930 until 1955 and continued to be involved with the company. He was also involved in many civic organizations. Under his management, the company was transformed from a wagon manufacturer to a furniture manufacturer and managed to survive and thrive during very difficult times. Keller Mansion, 720 North Capitol Avenue in Corydon, home of Charles A. and Gladys Fern Bean Keller, built circa 1916. C.A. Keller walked to work at the Corydon Keller plant each day. The home was later purchased by Andrew and Doris Best. A ceramic drawing of the house appears on the Best tombstone at Cedar Hill Cemetery. Keller's was very civic-minded. Throughout its history, Keller's was very much a part of Harrison County community life. In fact, there were years when, during the Harrison County Fair, the company showed its support by closing down that week so that its employees could work at and enjoy the fair. Keller sponsored events, sports teams, playing fields, picnics, scouting, clubs, music, charities, entertainments, etc. Here you see the Corydon Boy Scout Band circa 1924. The Corydon Rotary Club, 1939. The Corydon Barbershop Course, 1948. Some of their activities. Keller Fields out by the YMCA. Keller Furniture Company, organized in 1933. Officers of Keller Furniture Company. President C.A. Keller. Vice President R.C. Heaslett, C.A.'s son-in-law, husband of Ruth, daughter of C.A. Keller. Later became a salesman for the company as well. Secretary Herman Tucker, Superintendent of Corydon Schools. Treasurer Joseph L. Keller, brother of C.A. Keller. Director Robert F. Keller, son of Edward G. Keller. One of the very first table and chair sets created by Keller Furniture Company. Breakfast set, circa 1935. Keller dining set, circa 1939. Refrigerator boxes. Keller branched out into making refrigerator boxes for International Harvester in 1939. Relations between the two companies became strained when Keller's entered into a contract with the government and purchased compressors from another source instead of International Harvester. In 1942, Charles A. Keller severed ties with International Harvester. One of the wooden refrigerated boxes arrived in South Africa, but nothing was left but the metal hinges because the termites had eaten the wooden box. Here you see walk-in coolers made for International Harvester. During World War II years, Keller's looked for any kind of production opportunities. Here are some examples. 1941, a contract with General Box Company to furnish 48-inch diameter half hoops used in construction of plywood tobacco hogsheads. Number 2, government contract to produce rough forgings to be used as ship's hardware. Number 3, a government contract for wood parts for truck bodies. Number 4, a contract with Jeffersonville Quartermaster Depot supplying wood dimension stock for the manufacturing of folding cots. Number 5, a contract with Cincinnati Coffin Company for dimension stock for Jeep bodies. Flooding disaster struck in March 1943. Keller Manufacturing Company lies in the floodplain. High water flooded several buildings. One building was completely washed away, as was wood stored in open stacks in the yard. 60 finished walk-in coolers were ruined, and approximately 21,000 table legs were destroyed. Joseph Keller nearly drowned, but was able to save himself by grabbing onto a pile of lumber. Employees threw him a tow rope, and he was pulled to safety by a team of workers. End of the line for the wagon business. On with furniture. The ailing wagon business was liquidated in 1943 and sold its surplus inventory to the Nissan Wagon Company out of Winston-Salem in North Carolina. Keller Manufacturing Company was ready to expand in another direction, as Charles Keller and other directors realized they needed another source of orders. They decided to concentrate on making quality furniture. The management knew very little about the furniture business. If they had known about the dismal conditions in the industry, they probably would not have gone into it. They did have access to the right kinds of wood, oak, walnut, maple, cherry, etc. They tried to do what they did with the wagons at first, make chair parts for some other entity. They found that after they delivered the backs and seats of the chairs, so many were labeled by the receiver as defective culls, each of which carried a financial penalty. The Kellers actually owed money to the company they sold the chair parts to. Keller's biggest purchaser for resale was Montgomery Ward. Kellers had dabbled in the furniture business in the 1920s, making small items like magazine racks and end tables, as well as during the Depression years, but now the business focused its efforts on furniture making, producing high-quality tables, chairs, beds, and other furniture. Kellers also began to recognize that in order to be successful in the furniture market, they would eventually have to make changes in order to compete with other furniture makers. The business had its ups and downs in the 40s and 50s, but rose to an all-time high in 1953. Keller's first $1 million sales year was in 1945, and by 1955, total sales had risen to $2 million. Kellers threw all their efforts into producing quality furniture that was creative, well-built, functional and stylish en route to establishing their reputation as a maker of high-end, fine furniture. Due to a shortage of manpower, women were successfully brought into work at Keller's during World War II. These pictures are from Indiana Memory. Blanche Knight operates a variety saw. Pearl Cornelius Mock operates a chucking machine. Ruby Wendell carefully wraps chair for shipment. Anna Shireman operates a drill. Tragedy strikes Keller's during World War II. Robert F. Keller, son of Edward George Keller, was killed in action on November 19, 1944 in France while serving in the U.S. Army in the Battle of the Bulge. He held the rank of captain and was decorated with the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. Keller Furniture merged into the Keller Manufacturing Company in January 1945. Now that Keller's was no longer making wagons, the directors decided to merge the two companies since the Keller Manufacturing Company owned most of the stock in the Keller Furniture Company anyway. New officers for the merged firm: President and General Manager C.A. Keller, Vice Presidents Joseph L. Keller and T.J. Hudson, Secretary William H. Bill Keller, Treasurer R.C. Heaslett. These directors served for 9 years in the same positions. Post-war years. In the 10 years following World War II, two ongoing furniture industry problems persisted. Number one, the furniture industry's declining profits. Number two, the furniture industry struggled to maintain or increase its share of consumer dollars. The only method that most furniture businesses employed to raise their market share of consumer dollars was to engage in excessive price competition, which proved counterproductive. Buying furniture was a major but infrequent purchase for homeowners, and style, design, and quality were rapidly increasing in importance to potential customers. William Henry W.H. Bill Keller, son of C.A. Keller, proposed a 5-step sales promotion program in 1951. Number one, merchandise and redesign the line, that is, modernize. Hire famed designer Edmund Spence to accomplish this task. Number two, get a better display space at the Furniture Mart in Chicago. Number three, provide help and training to salesmen. Number four, advertise, advertise, advertise. Number five, a control system for all of the above. William Keller worked to implement all these 5 steps, some of which happened to a greater or lesser degree than others. Mid-century modern Keller furniture Valkyrie hutch and dining set by Edmund Spence, Keller designer. 1954 election of officers and directors at general meeting. President and general manager C.A. Keller. Vice President and Plant Manager, William H. Bill Keller, C.A.'s son. Vice President, T.J. Hudson. Secretary and Auditor, William Bean, nephew of C.A. Keller. Treasurer and Sales Manager, R.C. Heaslett. Directors, R. Earl Miller, T.J. Hudson's son-in-law. Bruce Markle, Jr., Joe Keller's son-in-law. The directors then voted to restructure titles. C.A. was named chairman of the board of directors, a newly created position, and his son, Bill Keller, was elected president and general manager to take C.A.'s place. Position of vice president and plant manager previously held by Bill was eliminated. In 1957, marketing manager Jack Waltz made this prophetic statement after a field trip to visit the furniture makers in the eastern United States. There are 2 kinds of furniture firms, the quick and the dead. Waltz feared that Keller's might soon be the latter, dead, unless changes were made. Mr. Waltz urged that Keller should adopt a new marketing concept to gear the conduct of the business toward 2 goals. Number 1, the satisfaction of customer needs, and number 2, to assure a predetermined profit. The firm moved to keep up with the times by addressing customer concerns and complaints about engineering, finish, delivery time and condition, color, mismatches, and construction. Keller's furniture made individual tables, chairs, beds, dressers, etc., as well as case goods, which are defined by Merriam-Webster as number 1, furniture such as bureaus or bookcases that provide interior storage space. Number 2, dining room and bedroom furniture sold as sets. Below are a round extension table, solid hard rock maple, captain's chair, buffet, and open hutch from the old Capitol 2 line. Some of the innovations Keller's adopted in their furniture business in the late 50s through the 60s. 1959, they advertised in national consumer magazines, including Brides, Home Decorating, Women's Day, House Beautiful, and others. Also in 1959, they won 2 prestigious international awards in the Advertising Awards Contest. In 1959, they also decided to discontinue bedroom furniture, which they did in 1960. Also in 1960, they stated the primary objective of the marketing function of the firm: to fulfill, better than anyone else, the consumer needs for family eating and entertaining furniture. 1960, they hired John Bookma as designer, and in 1963, they produced Province, Old Capitol 2, Valkyrie 2, and Prestige lines. Full steam ahead with furniture production. Number 1, the firm scrapped outdated woodworking equipment. Number 2, they began to watch furniture trends in the furniture market, such as modern versus traditional, which included provincial, French and Italian, and early American. They began to pay close attention to trends in colors of wood and stain. Light versus dark. Dark was out, light was in. Number 4, they continued to add salespeople till they covered the entire nation. Number 5, management, labor relations became strained at times. Union organized, which led to walkouts, strikes, pickets, grievances, etc. Number 6, Keller's focused on management development. Inside Keller Manufacturing Plant at Corydon. Series of samples of Keller advertising through the years in somewhat chronological order. The Keller logo stood for quality. Keller ad 1911 from the Corydon Republican. Last call. Rugs, carpets, matting, linoleum, and lace curtains. Signed W.H. Keller. Keller advertising at Fairground Spring at the annual Harrison County Fair. Keller advertisement on pedestrian covered bridge across the racetrack at the Harrison County Fair. Early Keller Wagon advertisement. Strong line on wheels. Jump to the 60s, 1966. Would Keller Modena impress the boss's wife? 1967, seating 4, or will there be more? 1968, you deserve quality, elegant Mediterranean. 1968, Keller brochure. 1969, Keller matches your love for early American. 1972, the best things in life are real. 1973, what to do with a herd of buffalo on a rainy afternoon. It's more than just dining furniture, it's Keller. 1973, 483 touchdowns were scored around this table. 1973, honesty is the best policy. 1974, it's also a very nice dinner table. 1974, in time, they'll know what good furniture is all about. 1974, furniture you can bet on. 1970s, good people, a Keller, LP, and booklet. Keller PGA china cabinet and putter from the home collection. Keller promotional solid wood posters. Keller consumer advertising was extended to national television game shows like Say When, Queen for a Day, and even The Price is Right. William H. Keller, 1917 to 2005. William H. Bill Keller succeeded his father, Charles A. Keller, as company president in 1955. He semi-retired in 1991 and was succeeded by Robert W. Byrd and continued to serve as chairman of the board until 1998. He was a bank director, founding father of the Rotary Club, member of the Chamber of Commerce and Corydon Country Club, and was very civic-minded. He died in Florida at age 87 in 2005. William Henry W.H. Bill Keller. In an article in the Corydon Democrat in 1989 about his 50 years in the business, Keller said, "The job is 50% teaching, 25% policy and strategy, 25% execution. Still following the 5 steps." Dynaset Design by William Keller. Modern Danish Group by Keller, 1963, Valkyrie 2 line. 1963, Board of Directors for Keller Manufacturing Company. Chairman of the Board, Charles A. Keller. President and General Manager, Bill Keller. Vice President, Marketing, Jack C. Waltz. Vice President, Finance, William M. Bean. Secretary and Production Manager, John Leonard Keller. Directors, Earl Miller, Bruce Markle Jr., Joseph H. Leo. Retired, Robert C. Heaslett. Director Emeritus, Thomas J. Hudson, DJ. Inside, Keller's, Corydon, Indiana, 1963. 1964 flood. Railroad cars venture through the flooded creek at Keller Lumber Yard in Corydon as floodwaters close in on the tracks over Indian Creek. Keller's expands to 3 plants. The Corydon plant was unable to keep up with demand for furniture, so the company expanded, first opening a new plant in Culpeper, Virginia in 1965, then a third plant in 1973 back in northern Harrison County near New Salisbury. Keller Dedicated Trucking Incorporated. In the late 1990s, the company formed Keller Dedicated Transportation Incorporated, Keller Trucking, a wholly owned subsidiary of the company whose primary function was to provide delivery service for the company. Keller Trucking operated with 20-plus trucks, which delivered approximately 80% of the company's finished products. Keller manufacturing facilities prior to 2000. Corydon was corporate office and manufacturing. 236,681 square feet, 63.07 acres, 263 workers. Culpeper, Virginia, manufacturing. 185,660 in size, 60.18 acres, 225 workers. New Salisbury, Indiana, manufacturing. 203,004, 91.39 acres, 237 workers. The Corydon Democrat headlines foretold the looming end for Keller Manufacturing Company. The public anxiously awaited each weekly edition to get the news about the latest developments. March 6, 2002, Keller expects to bounce back from bad year. September 18, 2002, Keller to close Culpeper plant, 120 to lose jobs. December 4, 2002, Keller seeks tax break on machinery coming from Virginia. Christmas Day, December 25, 2002, Keller will close Corydon plant, and Keller CEO hopes worst is behind us. January 1, 2003, Council gives Keller a break with 10-year tax abatement. August 6, 2003, Keller's top 3 executives fired. August 13, 2003, Keller CEO focuses on long-term growth. August 27, 2003, Keller's will close Corydon plant. September 10, 2003, Keller wants to sell 44-acre Keller Sports Park and the Keller site, a unique opportunity. September 17, 2003, a vote of confidence for Keller. November 5, 2003, CEO thinks Keller's headed in right direction, but workers aren't sure. Workers take a wait-and-see approach. November 26, 2003, Keller will go private, buy back stock, and YMCA agrees to buy Keller Sports Park. April 13, 2004, Main Street Corydon to buy Keller site. April 27, 2004, Main Street will seek grants for Keller cleanup. July 27, 2004, Keller to reduce workforce by half over 5 months. August 10, 2004, for sale, Keller plant at New Salisbury. August 24, 2004, Keller still afloat in Whitewater. Keller's #1 goal was to become profitable in 2005. October 19, 2004, Keller's moving out again. January 4th, 2005, Keller's wants to sell furniture operations. June 21st, 2005, Keller light still on, barely. January 6, 2006, Keller opens door to Newfield, acquires Paragon Door Design. January 17, 2006, Keller's purchase of door company could lead to bigger, better times. January 1st, 2008, cleared Keller site, waits for next venture. Incidentally, if you search local newspaper archives for Keller, many obituaries will come up frequently because so many faithful employees listed Keller's as their place of employment. The end of the line for the Keller Manufacturing Company in Harrison County. The world economy, as well as the process of making and selling furniture, had changed drastically, with much of the activity shifting to imports. A downturn for the Keller Manufacturing Company began in 2000. The 3 plants had a total of 530 employees on December 31st, 2001. This dropped to 395 individuals as of December 31st, 2002, after it was announced on September 16, 2002, that the company intended to discontinue operations at the Culpeper, Virginia facility as of November 22, 2002. In the fall of 2003, Keller Manufacturing Company closed its Corydon plant, consolidating operations to the new Salisbury plant in northern Harrison County, which closed its doors in turn in 2004. The factory was later sold to Childcraft from Salem. This closing marked the end of an era, over a century, in which generations of Harrison Countyans worked at the Keller Manufacturing Company. A suspicious fire at the Keller plant in Culpeper after it closed down. Here's a picture from Keller's in New Salisbury. Keller, from Louisville, Business First, June 6, 2005. Once proud, Keller Manufacturing now searching for value in its name. For more than a century, hundreds of Keller Manufacturing Company employees in Indiana and Virginia built a proud company that staked its name on high-quality solid wood furniture. Today, there aren't many takers for that name, and the company is little more than a shell. Vintage Keller furniture pieces are available for sale on many internet sites. They are billed as high-end used furniture, as well as in antique stores. Business entity info for Keller Manufacturing Company Incorporated is current. The aftermath. Keller Manufacturing purchased Paragon Door 2006, TA Logistics 2020, and QPS in 2021. In 2019, Doug Rink was appointed Keller CEO, and I got this email from him in 2020. Saw your story on Keller Manufacturing Company from 2014. It was a great read. I've also enjoyed a book about Keller. You might think that Keller Manufacturing Company is dead, however, it is not. Keller is still in business today and looking to acquire other lines of business. Our stock still trades slightly, and we think Keller will have a bright future one day again. The company has gone uninterrupted since the Secretary of State Incorporation in 1957. Thanks again, and I hope you won't forget about Keller. Kind regards, Doug Rink, CEO. Then I contacted him and told him I was going to do this project, and so here's his latest communication, which I received on July 11th. I asked him if there was anything else he would like to add. Not at this time. However, the stock still trades, and we have several small logistics businesses today. The corporate office is still located in Louisville, Kentucky, with one of the largest shareholders who funded the company long before I got here. We are looking for opportunities in the region and will keep you posted on our progress. Thanks for returning the email. Kindest regards, Doug. In conclusion, Keller Manufacturing Company performed a hugely successful pivot for many years as Keller's moved from a leadership position in a dying industry, making wagons, to successfully serving a completely different market, making furniture. Remember, all of this happened during times of depression, war, and many other adversities. In addition, an even more revolutionary change, partly by design and partly by accident, took place at Keller's. This was the change in management philosophy from an internal production emphasis to a broader one of committing the resources of the firm to serving a consumer need. Like Keller's ads promised, it's not just furniture, it's Keller. And it became part of the rich history of Harrison County, Indiana.